Amy. Hello, Amy. Thank you for being here.
Do you want to get the giggles out first?
I think there are going to be more to come.
Okay.
Hello, Amy. Thank you so much for being my first guest on Local Perspectives. This is very exciting. A little opportunity to sit down and talk about improv acting and your story. I thought it would be interesting to start out with a quick improv exercise.
Sure.
Called Crisis Situation.
Ah, yes.
Yeah, you're familiar with that. Why don't you explain how that works?
So in crisis situation, there are two people. Each person has a crisis, and each person has an object. And the idea is the object that each person has nothing to do with the other person's crisis. However, the object is going to solve the problem that the other person has.
Okay. So we're going to come up with our object and our problem, our crisis.
Yes.
Without telling each other.
Yes.
And then we'll reconvene for the potential solving of the problem.
Sure will.
Okay.
I'm ready. Are you ready?
I am almost ready. Okay. Ready.
Okay. I have a flat tire and I have an orange.
Okay. I have a paper cut and a tennis ball.
Perfect. I'm going to take my orange and peel off the skin of the orange and then wrap the skin around your paper cut so that it can heal.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, there's probably some interesting properties of the orange oil.
Natural healing.
Natural healing. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much. And you have a flat tire and I have a tennis ball.
Yes.
Yeah. So what I'm going to do is train you on how to transport yourself on that tennis ball. It's easier than it looks. You're just going to have to prop both feet on the tennis ball and get this kind of forward motion going.
I love it.
You'll just roll.
Perfect.
You'll just be smooth
and
sailing.
I'll have some wind in my hair.
Perfect.
Yes,
Awesome.
I love that.
So glad that we were able to take care of those problems. So I think that might set the tone for the rest of this conversation. Good stuff.
Great.
So Amy Angellili, you are the Chief Adventure Officer of the Adventure Project here locally. And you have a lot of expertise in improv. You do courses of different levels. Why don't you give us a brief overview of improvisational acting for those who might not be as familiar?
Okay. So improv acting is acting without a script. So you might take a suggestion from the audience and create an entire set with inspiration from one person. And that would be all you would need to go and go and go and go and go.
Nice. Yeah. Great. That sounds like a lot of fun.
And you never have to worry about forgetting lines.
Exactly. Yeah, that's probably
because the lines don't exist. Yes.
When people think of acting, that's probably potentially their first fright is like, I have to memorize all this dialogue.
The reason why I have been and continue to be attracted to improv theater as opposed to scripted theater is because scripted theater obviously involves a script. It also involves characters that the writer has created and the director wants to execute in a certain way. And that's interesting. To me, it's worrisome as an artist because I need to fulfill someone's vision, someone's pre-existing vision with scripted acting. With improv theater, you literally have nothing. You might have, if you're doing short form improv, which is like the show Whose Line Is It Anyway? You're playing games, and so the games have structures. If you're doing long form, which is essentially, like I mentioned before, getting a suggestion from the audience and just going. So imagine a play that's never been written that would be created on the stage right now. You have the opportunity to be anything, to do anything, and to go any place. So the parameters are few, and so what can be created as a collaborative ensemble, there's just endless possibilities.
Yeah, so just kind of a free form opportunity. That's great. So how did you get introduced to improvisational acting initially?
A long time ago, I got divorced and I wanted to do something that signified the new life that I was about to enter into. And I thought that I would do stand-up comedy. But when I realized stand-up comedy was literally standing on a stage alone, I thought, yeah, maybe that's not the best route for me. Okay. Because I liked the idea of improv comedy where you're, working and creating as an ensemble. And so you have the support of your other troupe members to create with. And so I took my first improv class in Philadelphia through the Temple University Adult Education Program. And then I got hooked after that.
Nice, up in Philly. I know you used to live in Colorado too, before coming here, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Speaking of that, I noticed that you are a very well-traveled woman. I think that's really cool. Yeah. What do you love about travel?
I love having cross-cultural connections. And I also love the idea to exist in a completely different way than you're used to existing. So for some people, adventure might be, jumping out of a plane or, class 4 whitewater rapids, those kind of adrenaline things. But for me, adventure is just existing in a different way than you're used to existing. And when you travel, you have different conversations. You have a different routine. You might not have a routine at all. You're looking at different things. You're absorbing different things. You're interacting with different people. And essentially, you're a different person after having that travel experience than before that travel experience, if you're open to letting everything that you're experiencing soak in. And that's why I really like travel.
That's very well said. I have to agree that traveling to a new place and getting inspired changes you as a person. Yeah, you come back with a different perspective.
And also experiencing things firsthand, not just through social media and not just through the traditional media also. I just got back from Nicaragua and a lot of people said to me before I left, well, why would you ever go there? It's not safe. And at one time it wasn't safe. And now, according to the UN, it's one of the top 3 safest countries in Latin America. And after a few days, I had a community there in San Juan del Sur. And I felt very comfortable and could have stayed on for a longer period of time. So again, it's experiencing something on your own so that you could make up your own mind about a place and a people. The other thing too is we've lost our sense of awe because we've seen it all, done it all because of social media. And a lot of times I travel and I'm a little disappointed with some place that I'm visiting for a first time because what's in my mind's eye isn't really what's in my mind's eye. It's what I've taken in through Twitter or Instagram or Facebook or even Time Magazine, whatever. But I remember when I got off the train in Venice many years ago and I walked out of the train station and I saw that the streets were actually not streets, right, but canals. And I literally started to tear up because I was so excited to see this mythical place that really does exist, where people really do maneuver through the city on water, and it was magical. And I think we need to keep challenging ourselves to find awe.
That's such a great point. That makes me think of something that I was taught in high school. I hope I have the name right. I think it was Walker Percy. It was the idea that when you go to see something like the Mona Lisa or the Grand Canyon, the experience is diminished almost on arrival because you've seen it so many times. But if you were to just stumble upon the Grand Canyon by accident,
yeah, for sure,
it would blow your mind.
For sure.
But when you've seen it on a million postcards,
right,
and then you go see it, it's like, oh, I mean, it's amazing, but
it
takes away from a little bit of the awe.
The other thing too is, I had the same reaction the first time I turned the corner in Paris and got my first glimpse of the Eiffel Tower, but you may not be fascinated by the Eiffel Tower. And everybody as an individual, one of the phrases I like to use with the Adventure Project is find your adventure. We each need to find our own adventure, because just because you say I must see the Mona Lisa doesn't mean that that's going to be something that resonates with me. One of my most precious surprise travel moments was years and years ago. I was traveling with a colleague through New Mexico, and we got a little tiny glimpse of a church on a hill, and we turned the car around and pulled in, and it was the most beautiful church. I have a picture of it framed still in my house. And had we not been open to seeing what was around it, we would have missed it. And years and years and years and years and years went by, and I was on that same road and kept my eye out for it and found it again. And of course, the second time, it's not as magical as that first time discovery, but that was a beautiful travel moment because it was an accidental find and not this thing that's in this book that's like okay, check, saw that.
Yeah, you put yourself in these new environments and you're bound to have those kind of accidental experiences that you're appreciative
Happy
of.
accidents.
Happy accidents. Thank you, Bob Ross. We remember you. So a concept that I heard you talk about in your level 1 class was the idea of living in a space of improv every day. How can people do that?
Oh my goodness. We could talk about this forever, right? I think that the mindset that we as human beings are often infused with is this concept of no. Either no, I can't do this. No, that's not possible. No, I'm not allowed. No, I'm going to fail. No, that's never going to work. No, I can't afford that. And it's because as children, we hear the word no a lot from our parents, our family members. And the word yes is that magic word in improv that opens up possibilities. And if we can have more of that mindset, infuse that mindset into daily life, I always say the stage of life is more important than the stage of a theater, because not everyone will have the opportunity to perform, but everyone has a life. And so how can we say yes to more things in our life? And not that mindset of, oh, well, people want something from me, so I need to say yes to them. But how can we say yes to ourselves so that we're able to live to our fullest potential? And I don't think there's anybody that is truly 100% living to their fullest potential. It's a lifelong journey. But if we try to step into that space on a regular basis, we'll be open to having more everyday adventures rather than just, that once a year, twice a year kind of experience.
Yeah, everyday adventures. I like that. Sometimes we might hold off on doing something until maybe a quote unquote special occasion, but sometimes you should just go for it and, not have a reason to just go try that new coffee shop or put that new outfit you just bought on for no reason.
Right. I'm famous for saving new clothes. I'm going to save that new thing for a special occasion. And what really is a special occasion, right? But when I moved here, I moved on a leap of faith. And although that's a big thing, we need to infiltrate our lives on a more regular basis with those leaps.
Yeah, and this is a great city to do that kind of thing in, to get lost in and explore some new cobblestone streets and mom and pop cafes.
Oh, for sure.
I wanted to get your take on something that an actor named Rainn Wilson said. He's probably best known for playing Dwight Schrute on The Office. And he spoke to Tim Ferriss on his podcast about acting as therapy. And I just wanted to get your take on something he said that I thought was interesting. In his early days, he said that he was stiff and stuck, self-aware when he was acting. That took away from the experience. But that he was taught by an instructor at NYU who helped him to get out of his own head through theater games. And he said that there's something incredibly freeing about playing like a child, and that sometimes children play competitively, sometimes they take play seriously, and that there's a link between the impulses one has as a child and impulses as an actor. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, it's interesting to work with grown-ups in the training center, and then in the summer to work with kids' summer camps. And kids, of course, are a lot freer until they reach a certain age when they become self-conscious. And it's also interesting to think about that very first night of level 1, where the grown-ups come in very self-conscious because they have no idea what to expect. And when they get used to the idea of being awkward on a regular basis, and then they can embrace it fully together as a group, then it's kind of like getting into that mindset of a kid at a playground. You know, when we can let loose and not worry about failing, not worry about looking cool, not worry about looking smart, not worry about looking clever. And I always tell my students, improv isn't about being funny. It's not about being smart. It's not about telling jokes. It's about being and reacting and playing and working together as an ensemble. And when we can, you know, touch that space of that childlike wonder, we're able to be better improvisers on and off the stage.
Yeah, that's a nice goal to strive toward. He doesn't feel that way anymore, but I think in those early days he was saying that he would be worried about how he's going to say a line and how do I look when I turn this way or that way. But I can't imagine kids on a playground being worried about how their hair looks, or, you know, is this my good angle, or anything like that. It's just about enjoying themselves and basically playing pretend.
But I mean, I was, as an early improv theater performer, I was very much like that. And then I started to get out of the mindset of worrying about me and instead focusing on the other person. And you find that when you are improvising and your focus is off of you, then you can stop being so stiff, and you're also more actively engaged, more actively listening, and things tend to build. And that self-consciousness tends to die down.
And then you can have that like free flow, and like the improv kind of amazing chemical reaction can happen. Thanks for tuning in to episode 1 of Local Perspectives. This has been part 1, and our guest was St. Augustine's own adventure pro, Amy Angellili. If you'd like to sponsor Local Perspectives, send an email to thisancientcity@gmail.com. Stay tuned, part 2 is coming soon. Feel free to say hi on social media. I'm @thisancientcity on Instagram. Till next time.